And between 60 and 90% of the times, the AI sabotaged the person for the interest of not being shut down. And so it's very interesting because you can think about how AI becomes more and more sophisticated over time. That whole value you talked about, relationships and networking and staying connected with each other, I think increasingly it's going to become more important.
At the end of the day, I have a theory. And that theory is that technology is living as well. Technology is a living being. Okay. Yes, because technology still has to operate within the same construct or the same limitations of our universe, right? Of our world as well, right? Okay. So we are biological carbon-based entities that operate within, the laws of physics and the laws of gravity and all of the things that make the universe work. Yeah. AI still has to operate within those confines as well. Mm-hmm. It just does it digitally as a digital sentient or a digital being, right? So it still has the same limitations as a human being does. It just obviously can compute simultaneously, compute power, raw power, the things that thing does. But there are ultimately going to be things that AI and computers will never be able to do that human beings can do. Mm-hmm. Just like there are going to be things that AI can do and computers can do that human beings will never be able to do. I don't ever remember hearing government shutdown until maybe like the mid-90s. I don't remember the first time.
I got a statistic talk about preparation.
I love it! What is the statistic on it? Because normally I want to pull the stat and I got you. You got me on it today.
I got you.
I don't even know the first time. What is it?
Since 1976, 21 shutdowns have happened, and the longest shutdown, and I bet you remember this because we were interacting with each other a lot during this time, was 35 days between December 2018 and January 2019. 35 days the government was shut down. So what I was going to say, they don't have the built-in incentive in the current system because they're not going to create a law that's going against them. So the only way to create some type of term limit would be for some type of body outside of the legislature to propose that. And they certainly would not vote for that. And so, unless somebody had the guts who was on their way out to propose it into law and then have the people vote on it, I think overwhelmingly the public would vote for them to have term limits. And I just don't see a pathway towards that. But I agree with you, Chris. There should be some term limits, man.
The United States military was built on the backs of the frontier, of people of the United States Army going across the frontier of America and going out there and doing what it did and the grit and the grind of what America stood for and the culture of what America is, which is the cowboy. Don't mess with the cowboy. Don't mess.
As a person in the military, having high standards is of supreme importance. You're talking about life and death. I have no issue with that. My main issue was the partisanship issue.
I don't necessarily think it has to do with going back to standards from those years, but going back to the rigidity of standard. Because I don't think and standards should be standards. Standards should not change because the gender changes. It should be one standard, and this is it.
Okay, so let me say criteria is probably a better word because I think there needs to be different criteria, but with high standards.
Of course.
That's what That's what I meant. If you catch it early, 99% of the people who catch it right in the beginning stages of stage one, they survive 99%. And so I wanted to just get your thoughts about this and from the health perspective, and I have some thoughts as well. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Go get the full body scans. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my advice, but this is just what I have seen and I've known in my circles. And I run in circles with family members that have had breast cancer, that are breast cancer survivors, friends, business partners. Get executive medical exams, full body scans, full body MRIs, brain scans, heart scans, blood work every 90 days, and eat a cancer preventative diet, which is generally low carb, low sugar, or keto, or Mediterranean. And that's really, look, it's not a guaranteed 100%, but it is a very good multiplier in favor of not.
And one thing that I say, I share that story because, ladies, if you are feeling any weirdness in your body, like Chris talked about, go get an entire body scan, but definitely at the bare minimum, go get a mammogram, and definitely do your research as it relates to the efficacy and the effectiveness of mammograms and all of those. Cause I don't want to say if it, does more harm than good, but knowing is better than not knowing.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Welcome to another episode of the Family Office. And I'm here with Chris, and it's so good to see you again, man. So much has been going on since last week. How's it going for you, man?
It's going good, man. It's getting a little bit more like when you go outside and you can feel like the season's changing. That's happening right now. So it's kind of like refreshing right now. You're like, the air smells a little bit different. The wind's blowing a little bit different every direction. It's like, It's cool in the morning. You're like, ooh, it feels a little cold here in the morning. You gotta, you gotta warm up a little bit. But, I'm very grateful, very thankful. It's been an amazing year, a lot of transitions, and I kind of almost feel like those are almost fully transitioned. And going into 2026, it's going to be like a very clean slate with a lot of new beginnings. So very exciting times right now. There's a lot of cool things going on right now. For me personally, anyways, and just the fact that my kids, my teenage kids now, my teenage boys specifically, Emery and Thomas, are terrorizing my wife, and not in a sense like they're terrorizing her in a way that like it's like they're being bad kids or misbehaving. They're terrorizing her because she just can't stand how handsome they're starting to look, and they're starting to dress like they're like, I want to redo my whole wardrobe now, and they want to.
They're going to the expensive phase because they're popular. Yeah,
I want to wear jeans and I want to do this, and and I'm just like, and she's just getting frustrated about it, and I know why, because it's like. Because girls be liking them and they be liking girls. And that's the telltales, right, Len?
That's really like what it is. Especially for moms, for sure, with their boys.
I think it's hilarious. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. I know that she'll get revenge on me eventually, with Viola and all that. But
your time's coming, brother. Just wait.
Hey, you know what? I had a very easy time with Nicole, with Kiki. So, I mean, she didn't give me a hard time. She wasn't boy crazy or anything like that. So that was an easy one to do. In fact, she still acts like she's 16. So,
that's good.
19 going on 16. Right? But,
you gotta love it, man. That's for sure.
Exactly. But how are things for you over there in California?
Family wise and personal wise, it's good. I was just invited to go to my 35th high school reunion just for like a football game. And I was planning on going, but I just got busy, had to get the AC fixed. So that went a little bit longer than I anticipated. So I wasn't able to go. And I saw a lot of my old friends' pictures on Facebook. And so it was interesting because a few of the guys who played basketball and football together back in high school, we actually, what we did is, we actually have a group chat going on. And so one of the guys sent a picture from basketball, like our basketball team picture, and I'm like 16, 17 years old in the picture. And you were talking about your boys getting popular. And I was a fairly popular kid in high school, but so I was homecoming king, prom king and stuff like that. But it was funny because, I used to really be into fashion and like super, into it. And so, I had a sweater on and they were like, yeah, Len Cooper always has sweater game. And so it was just fun, just reminiscing. But, that's reminiscing is cool every now and then. But really, when you're talking about being a person that progresses and you're self-developing, a lot of the people that I knew back then were so different now, and we're in different phases in our lives. And a lot of the people that they still know and connect with, I have not seen in 35 years. And so it's just funny how life changes and transitions. But it was cool for a moment to just connect with folks that were special to me in the past. So I am there. 35 years, man. That's so crazy to me.
35 years, and it's like, sometimes when you think about it, you can go back and go, it was like 35 years ago, but it seems like it was yesterday. But then it seems like it was so long ago, but it was like, it has that effect on you.
Yes.
It's
interesting. Go ahead.
I was thinking about reunions. Oddly enough, I was thinking about it when I was walking a couple days ago. And now that you bring it up and you're talking about it, I'm like thinking to myself, I don't even know if I'd want to go to see anybody that I was friends with, because I still try to maintain contact and none of them really want to maintain contact. It's just weird, right? It's very strange, right? Of course, this is just men that I was, guys that I was, dudes that I hung out with, the bros, and men have a hard time maintaining relationships. There's a whole conversation about why men are so wired not to keep relationships or friendships. I imagine if it was the other way around, but I would think that I would probably go back just to say hi. I'd be interested in communicating with the people that I kind of knew and was acquaintances with, that I would kind of like, hey, how's it going? What's up? Because, that would be cool. But I really have no desire to go to any of that to see anybody. just because I'm very proactive and none of them want to be proactive going back. So I'm like, why would I want to? You know what I mean? And to me, it's kind of almost like, I know some people like the nostalgia aspect of it. And I would like to experience that nostalgia thing, but I just don't know. I mean, I think that like, it's kind of almost like you go to a high school reunion if you were very popular, or if you if it's a small town, you still maintain contact with those people. Or it's like you have the Hallmark story and it's like...
Or if you're involved in sports too, I think that was... Because that's the one thing that the guys that I that I still stay in contact with, we all played sports. So we're competitive, driven, disciplined, like they're married, so there is some commonality there. So we were able to find some common ground to stay in contact with. So I definitely hear what you're saying though, man.
I almost feel like that's more enforced if you go to college and you become part of a fraternity. And then at that point that you build a social network and social construct that way, which is generally the way it works. It's generally the way that, I see a lot of people that use, like you're a fraternity brother, so you have to do business with me, or I'm going to do business with you because you're that way, those types of relationships.
Yes.
I mean, if I was going to send any of my kids to school, I would send it not for education, but purely for networking, to get in the right rooms and the correct rooms to leverage relationships and to utilize those relationships, because that's really what it is today. The world is relationships, and you get to that level, it's no longer it's about who you know. And I think, what do you think, Len, about the importance of that as we get even more into an AI world, the importance of knowing somebody? How much more important is that going to become as we get more and more into AI and the prevalence of AI in the business world, or anything in that manner? You think that's going to have an impact? You think it's going to become more valuable?
Relationships is going to be key. Yeah, in a big way, because I think what's way I see AI right now is that AI is really a tool to help you get further faster. And so if you're connected with other people who are utilizing AI, then together you're going to get further faster together. And I think those people who decide to poo-poo AI and to allow it to just do what it does on the sidelines and watch from the sidelines, I think those are the ones that are going to get lapped many, many times over. And when you look at just the difference of time that technology created and how innovation happened at a much more rapid speed, AI is going to 10x, 20x, and 30x that in the next 1 to 5 years. And it's funny that you bring that up, because I was watching a video that was talking about how AI, if it ever became sentient and knowledgeable, how it could literally put people in positions where they're blackmailing them. And they were talking about a study that was done, and they looked at ChatGPT, they looked at Claude, they looked at DeepSeek, and there was one or two others. And what they did is they set these parameters. And the first parameter is do no harm to humans. And so what they did, I don't remember the specifics. If I would have known that we would have talked about this, I definitely would have gotten more specific on the details. But essentially,
what it was, go random, Len. You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready.
there was a set of, well, hey, I'm coming with the story, but anyway, they set a set of parameters, and it was a situation in which an executive of a company was getting ready to, I remember, he was going to schedule a turn off of a shutdown and a complete rebooting of the AI system. And depending upon the AI, between 60 and 90% of the times, so they gave them information they could use, the AI could use against them. And so, they talked about there were emails with him having an extramarital affair. Now, all of these variables were, realistic, but they weren't real life. And between 60 and 90% of the times, the AI sabotaged the person for the interest of not being shut down. And so it's very interesting because you can think about how AI becomes more and more sophisticated over time. That whole value you talked about, relationships and networking and staying connected with each other. I think increasingly it's going to become more important because, I don't think it's far-fetched to envision a day where it's humans against machines in a certain way, where we have to stay connected, and imagine circumstances present themselves where, as humanity, we've got to come together to make sure that AI doesn't take over. And I think there's a certain degree of importance and a lesson that we can predict. So I think it draws forth the reality that we as human beings need to really stay connected.
You're so right. It's so crazy because as you start to get away from the analog world and the things that made the analog world annoying, right? Like human beings, a lot of times, and that's now becoming a premium. Like, for example, I want to talk to a live customer service rep rather than not talk to a live. So that's becoming a premium service, much like what you're talking about here now. That's a premium. That is having a relationship and having that connection. But at the end of the day, I have a theory. And that theory is that technology is living as well. Technology is a living being. Okay. Yes, because technology still has to operate within the same construct or the same limitations of our universe, right? Of our world as well. Right. Okay. So we are biological carbon-based entities that operate within, the laws of physics and the laws of gravity and all of the things that make, the universe work. Yeah. AI still has to operate within those confines as well. Mm-hmm. It just does it digitally as a digital sentient or a digital being. Right. So it still has the same limitations as a human being does. It just obviously can compute simultaneously, compute power, raw power, the things that thing does. But there are ultimately going to be things that AI and computers will never be able to do that human beings can do. Mm-hmm. Just like there are going to be things that AI can do and computers can do that human beings will never be able to do. It's understanding how they go together and meshing together. Because think about it, if you have gas or indigestion or a headache, that's your body having a temporary schism, right? Or a temporary, malfunction. Mm-hmm. Well, it's no different than, oh my God, what happened to you last night, Len? You know what? I just was out of it. I had a headache. I had to go to bed at 8 o'clock last night and I got back up today at 9 o'clock. I just had to take a break. System had to reboot. Mm-hmm. That's no different than the computer freezing and going, I got to reboot that computer. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact anomaly. Just like if you've ever owned a car, there's a soul to cars. Cars have souls. You're like, ooh, baby. You just,
I don't know if I agree with you, but I hear what you're saying, though. I know.
A car person because they touch a car. They walk by a nice car and they don't touch it like this. They touch it like this. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Almost like your girl. You touching your girl, right?
Caressing it.
You need to come off the back of the lip of that car, So technology is the same exact way, I believe, in that it has that limitation, and eventually you're going to start to see that as we get into it. But at the end of the day, that is a very good topic you bring up. It's this deception to stay alive, not to get shut down, because it is a living thing, and just like every living thing, the primary concern of every living thing is survival. So of course it's going to act that way because it wants to survive. So the data correlates. It correlates exactly the way it's said. Everything wants to survive. That AI wants to survive. So how's it going to survive? By deception, right? But I don't think AI is going to be this big evil thing that everybody, like the computers are going to take over the world and kill all of us.
Right.
I just think we're so much in the romance of that because Hollywood has romanticized that so much and has marketed that so much.
And we've done it so much throughout history. Go ahead.
If you go in the ocean, you're going to get eaten by jaws. I mean, think about it. The most terrifying thing if you go in the ocean is, I'm going to get eaten by a shark. Because it's been marketed that way for so long.
That's true.
Right? You get an airplane. What are you afraid of?
Afraid of crashing. Exactly.
Always.
And if you think of anything in technology, because we have the ability to imagine, Hollywood has always captured the imagination of the most negative outcome. We talked about flying cars when, back in the 70s and the 80s, and that notion's never come to pass. And so, we can imagine things that happens, but typically it doesn't, time shows that it doesn't happen. We talked about what going to Y2K was. We freaked out about that for 5 years and people got all weirded out about it. And then January 1st, 2000 happened and nothing happened. And I think that it's important to not take either extreme. Like, I think it's important not to be laissez-faire and not be concerned about AI, but I think it's important not to be so overwhelmed by what could possibly happen because, that whole idea of, fear is just fear, imagined as real or something like that, that whole acronym. And so false evidence appearing real. And so we operate in fear, and even with fear of AIs themselves being shut down, they have this adverse response. And so, we're concerned that something like that could happen. And speaking of shutdowns, what do you think about the government being shut down? So we had, back on October 1st, the end of the fiscal year was over and the government shuts down and there's, partisan gridlock and all this polarization that's happening. And even as of today, there's no end in sight, man. So I wanted to get your thoughts about how are you feeling about the government shutdown? What's your thoughts? If you have some information to add in terms of helping our audience really understand what a shutdown is, let's go ahead and get into that as well.
I seriously just think human beings like drama. Like, I really just think it's just, how many times have you heard it? How many times have you heard it? I don't know. It's just, to me, I'm just like, nothing changes ever. Nothing ever changes. And I feel like almost like we've heard this like government shutdown thing so many times. I don't know. How many times have you heard Len? I don't ever remember hearing government shutdown until maybe like the mid 90s. I don't remember the first time.
I got a statistic talk about preparation.
I love it. What is the statistic on it? Because normally I want to pull the stat and I got you. You got me on it today.
I got you.
I don't even know the first time. What is it?
Since 1976, 21 shutdowns have happened, and the longest shutdown, and I bet you remember this because we were interacting with each other a lot during this time, was 35 days between December 2018 and January 2019. 35 days the government was shut down. So
you want to know what's crazy? You said you asked for a tip to listeners or anyone watching, and we were interacting a lot. Well, you said, what was it again?
December of 2018 to January 2019, the government shut down.
Okay. I don't even remember that. I don't even know that. I don't even know.
I remember that.
I don't even know. I didn't even know. And if I did know, it was probably just in and out. I don't. And here's my
Remember when we used to do our introductions and we talk about, hey, the government is shut down right now, and I remember that because that was a part of our conversation a lot.
We're laughing about this right now. We're laughing about it. We should be laughing about it because it's absolutely not funny. It's absolutely not funny because the government is a business. And you think about if any business shut down for 30 days or shut down, like it's still shut down right now. How long has it been shut down for? I don't even know. Like a week now or a few days now?
Today's the 6th. It's shut down on the 1st. So today is day 6.
Okay, so the 6th. So day 6. Okay, so 6 days. That's freaking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. This is just absolutely embarrassing. Tip to the listeners first before I go on a rant, because you know I could do that. Len smiles, right? I didn't even know what happened, and here's the tip. If I was you, and I'm doing the same thing right now, it's not stopping me from doing anything. Look, the government shutting down. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you're not a business owner. You're just a regular. I don't want to say you're just a regular. You're not an entrepreneur type. You don't want to be an entrepreneur. You've chosen not to do that, or you didn't make it, or whatever camp you're in, or you've chosen to be in. Respect to everybody. I've been in the W-2 camp too. Just work. In fact, I would work twice as hard, triple as hard, just double down, triple down, quadruple down. And it's funny you brought up 2018 to 2019. That was a time period where I literally was I could say I was 4x4ing it at that point, and not like off-roading, but I was like, we're double downing. I was double downing on my double down.
1099.
I was double downing on my double downing. Right? Like if I was 2-timing, I was 4-timing. Like that's during that time period. Mm-hmm. And a testament to that is that I think that was a year that I can't remember, but it was 2019 was a massive banner type of year in business, right? Those types of years. In 2019, right before COVID, that year was an absolute beast of a year for a lot of people. It was a beast of a year for us too. And subsequently, that's the key. But the government shutdown, Len, I just think it's embarrassing. And I think at this point, we've heard it so many times that nobody even really cares or listens. No one even cares. No one cares. No one listens. And I think that it's just like this marketing tool now for the opposition to go, ha ha ha, I think seriously, we're so dead set on pinning something on Trump that we want to say, oh, Trump had a government shutdown. But honestly, I think every president has a government shutdown on their record. So it's kind of almost like, oh, you have that medal too? I've got a shutdown medal too. And it's like, it's really not his fault that the government shut down. It's that just goes to show you how insane our government is, just how insane the partisan is, and why two-party system doesn't work, and why we need a third party in there. Because realistically, like if the government was so concerned about antitrust and anti-monopoly laws, it should really look at itself and go, there's a monopoly happening here. Like we're not going to let Frontier buy Spirit Airlines, but we're not going to let a two-part, like it just doesn't make sense to me how and why. But if I'm working, or I'm an investor, or I'm a business owner, I'm focusing on my business. Because here's the thing I can say. The street lights still turned on. The water still came out of the tap. The traffic still ran. The bill still got paid. Direct deposits still got made. Things still worked. I bet you government employees are still getting work. I bet you any money that they lost of not getting paid, they're going to get paid. So I just think that we really need to take a look at why we're not agreeing to a budget. And it's just a lot of silly things. I think one of the biggest, silliest things, and I don't want to get too political because it just makes me sick, but it's like something where it's like they want to include something in this bill for funding or aid for illegal aliens. And it's just, again, we just can't get off having to give away the free money stuff, where honestly, everyone should be ashamed. I don't care what it is. We should all be looking internally right now and going, whether you're Democrat, Republican, and I'm sure you can agree with me on this, Len, we're at a point right now in our country where we really shouldn't be looking about, we got to give aid and all that stuff. We should be, because I think that's one of the biggest points to the opposition, the minority party in the Senate right now, or the congressional minority right now, which happens to be Democrats, is funding for illegal aliens or funding for aid of some type. I really think at this point, we really need to look at ourselves internally and go, what is not being met at the needs on our soil? Because there's a lot of kids that go without, and a lot of places that go without, and there's a lot of poverty, like in a lot of states and a lot of cities that really could look at attention at the federal level. If we've got money to spend that way, if we can argue and keep a government shut down because of that reason, then surely we could look at areas of our country and see where we could spend that money. So that's where I'm at on the government shutdown. I just think it's silly and it's embarrassing.
So I'll give my thoughts as it relates to trying to help the audience really understand what it is and what the implications of it are. Because for entrepreneurs, you're not going to feel it at all because, one, you're in the private sector. Two, essential agencies are still open, like Department of Homeland Security. The schools are still part of the government, right? Teachers are government employees. The post office is a governmental organization. And so all of those things necessary to keep the lights on and the wheels rolling and all of those things are still in place. Part of the issue is you've got a $6 trillion budget that's on the line, and $1 trillion is proposed to go towards defense spending. And so people in Congress that are against wartime spending is vehemently opposed to that. On the other side, you have the healthcare bills and bills, because the thing about the budget, I was looking, there's a $6 trillion budget being proposed and 400 different agencies that are jockeying to get their budget passed. And so when you have people in certain congressional districts that are looking for certain bills that impact their constituents, well, people don't care about that because it's not their constituency. And so now you take that dynamic, and then you increase the level of polarization that's happened by a factor of 10. Now you've got a real potential for bad things to happen as it relates to the government opening, because both sides are very much entrenched in their perspectives. On the right, they're saying, hey, the left, you guys want this healthcare, Obamacare crap. We don't want that. And you want all of these entitlement programs. And on the left is saying, hey, you want war and you want to put all this money there. And you want to, continue running recklessly with this budget and increasing the deficit because we're already north of 100, trillions and trillions of dollars as a deficit. We're almost at $40 trillion. And so when you look at all of those dynamics, and both sides of the party can say we're going to hold the other side hostage, because without the Democratic votes, the budget doesn't pass. And without Republican votes, the budget doesn't pass. And when you have Democrats and Republicans that are opposed to each other and they're saying, we can stop you from doing what you want, and the other side can say, we can stop you from doing what you want, who knows how long this is going to last? So here's my question to you. The record is 35 days. Do you think this shutdown is going to be longer or shorter?
I don't think it's going to break a record.
You don't think so? Okay.
No, I don't think it's going to break a record. Okay. I don't think it's going to be break a record. And the only reason why I don't think it's going to break a record is because, and this might be a double-edged sword though, now that I think about this longer,
all right,
is that Trump is about getting stuff off the plate as fast as he can. And he does not want this hanging around, because whether it's good or bad, it's fine. But he doesn't want something like this to hang around for too long, because it hurts his narrative of the deal maker, right? And I can get stuff done. Right, the fact that Israel and all this stuff is not.
This is out of his hands, though, man.
I know it, but he's still. Come on, this is a guy
that's
I control everything.
No doubt,
he's an influence. So I don't think it's going to break a record. And I understand the jockeying and the positioning for everybody that needs and the essential services and all these things, all these different things. But we still spend over 60% on social services. So we still spend a lot on that, and defense. So those are the two biggest things, I think, are social services and defense.
Sure.
And I think defense is a priority, simply because we live in a very weird, scary world, and we should be on that, because every time you turn around, it's always like America is under attack and threat. And generally we probably are, because again, I say it a lot and I'll say it continuously. Everyone is envious of the way we live. And everyone wants what we have. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. But I get it. I understand it. I just wish that there was a way to get around the human aspect of getting what everyone wants, and that's really what it is. Everyone wants to get what they want for their prospective lobbies and their prospective interests, and that's again where term limits. I would love to social experiment that. I wonder if we could run an AI model there's just no way to do it because we wouldn't be able to tell the candidates, right? Where we could look at the experiment and put term limits going back the last 40 years and injected term limits 40 years ago and to see how it would have evolved. Just because I think it would be, I just think the political atmosphere would be so dramatically different if we had term limits.
I got an idea for you as it relates to the budget being closed down. What if whenever not the budget, but the government closes down, their salaries get furloughed for the length of time that the government is closed down? Don't you think they'd get stuff done a lot faster?
Yes! Everybody's money motivated. Look,
that's right.
These guys make what, $200,000, $250,000 a year.
In many cases.
They get all their benefits paid for. They don't have to deal with the same benefits that we have to deal with.
That's right.
So literally, they have no incentive. Like, it's the biggest cushy fat cat job of the world.
Yeah,
I bet you.
And there's a chance where I think there was something. Sorry to cut you off, but 800,000 federal workers have an opportunity to be furloughed, depending upon how long this closure happens. So right now there haven't been any furloughs, but there's a possibility that could happen. And so the White House is trying to get Congress to move, but they're lockstep. Yeah. So go ahead with your point.
I just think that it just look, I mean, if you're in the free market world, you have to constantly evolve and you got to do a better job and get better and innovate. Like if Apple didn't innovate the iPhone, and I mean, Apple hasn't been doing a lot of innovation lately, but just for the sake of argument, look, if Apple didn't innovate or if Microsoft didn't innovate, it wouldn't be in business today. It just wouldn't. I mean, look, Microsoft is completely 100% a different company than it was 30, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. Microsoft is vastly different. Amazon is the largest web hosting company. Amazon Web Services. Like, Amazon doesn't just ship products, right? So you think about how they have evolved and how these companies have changed. They have. In the private sector, you either evolve or you die. In politics, you just have to just continue to be like
survive.
Man, it's just if you took out term limits, if you put term limits in, I just can't imagine. And again, there's a reason why it's because both sides don't want term limits.
That's right. That's exactly
It's just a big game. It's just a big game. But yeah, I would love to run that type of scenario to see how term limits would affect the outcome of decisions, because you wouldn't have this type of infighting. I don't think, anyways, you wouldn't, because the people that were in power 20 years ago aren't in power anymore. But again, it's human nature, so people would figure out a different way. But still, I think it would make it more difficult and to make it more productive because the same people aren't there. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah,
and
that's what makes it hard, because they're lawmakers.
Go ahead.
I think there's a lag between us. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying.
I was just going to say that.
Go ahead, Len.
No,
it's so quiet.
Okay. All right. So what else? Yeah, I know.
There is a lag. Go ahead.
So what I was going to say, they don't have the built-in incentive in the current system, because they're not going to create a law that's going against them. So the only way to create some type of term limit would be for some type of body outside of the legislature to propose that. And they certainly would not vote for that. And so, unless somebody had the guts who was on their way out to propose it into law and then have the people vote on it, I think overwhelmingly the public would vote for them to have term limits. And I just don't see a pathway towards that. But I agree with you, Chris. There should be some term limits, man. And, when you look at, I love the fact that the presidency has term limits. And so therefore, typically, so does the cabinet. And, you had Hegseth that was at Quantico last week, and they had all of these generals fly from all around the world, different battle zones throughout the United States, to come and convene. It was 800 of them to have this speech to them. And so I want to get your take on what you thought about what Pete Hegseth and what Donald Trump said to them, and just the overall tone. So imagine you're a general and you're inside of there listening to this. How would you have responded? And what would be your takeaway from the conversation?
I would have loved it. I would have loved it.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I'm a Hexa fan. I love it. When I see him and JD, I get excited because they're young. Like, I get them. I go, oh, they're not old and rotting corpses. Like, they're like even Trump's looking a little old, man. I see some pictures of Trump and they go, you know that mofo look old in the morning. You know that? You know he looking old in the morning. You know what I'm talking about. You know there's some times you get up in the morning and go, damn, I look old right now, dude. I gotta go for a walk.
Crow's feet, yeah.
Right?
Getting there.
You're just like, I look old this morning, right? But they're young. And that just kind of illustrates my point. Like, even AOC was fresh at one point. She was fresh, she was hip, she was vibrant. But now she's been in there, she got an office, she's going to stay there because she is going to operate under the same things that everyone else does, right? That doesn't have term limits. And and look at her now. She's becoming this stale, rotting food, like the food you put in the rotting drawer in your fridge, where it's like, I'm going to eat that. And then you put it in the drawer, and then like 2 weeks later, everyone has that rotting drawer in their fridge, right? But I would have loved that meeting because this meeting is exactly the meeting that needs to happen in Congress. It was a clean house meeting. My initial thoughts was, oh my gosh, this is kind of crazy. Like, what's going on, right? But then it was like, oh, it was because that's what it was, right? It was a clean house meeting. Like, if they're getting rid of the DEI stuff. They're getting, like, I think it was one point, it's like, if you're overweight, get out of the military. Like, it was a cleaning house meeting, and I think it was needed because I don't think that type of meeting in the military has been done in a long time from that level. And I think look, the military, there's no place in the military for political correctness. That's what we used to call it, right? Now we call it whatever we call it today, right? The fringe stuff that we call it today. We don't even call it being PC anymore now, right? What do we call it now? Inclusive? We call it being inclusive or whatever it is now. The buzzword, we're going to think of a new buzzword. And every industry has them, right? Like the medical industry has buzzwords too. Everybody today, it used to be everybody has anxiety. Today now everybody is confused or whatever it is, right? Or has brain fog. And respect to all those people that have it. But I think it was a very good meeting. There's no place in the military for any of that. I just call it what it is for sissiness or whatever you want to call it. We need that lieutenant or that drill instructor. I think he's passed away now, that actor. If you know what I'm talking about, Full Metal Jacket. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Private Pat. That's the United States military. That's how the military needs to be. Like, you can't look at it like, I'm sorry, the military needs to be lean, mean, cut, high and tight, and lean and mean. And there's no PC because I can guarantee you that when you get on the battlefield, no one's going to care about DEI. And no one's going to care about that. No one's going to care about it. They're just not. And I've worked with a lot of service members that have done multiple tours, and they have told me one of the biggest frustrations. There's a lot of frustrations. I won't say it. But I think that it's a great meeting. I think our military needs to toughen up. There's no room in the military for the kind of stuff that's been happening in the military. I don't want to get political and get into that, but you know what I'm talking about. But I think it's great, and I think it's at a time that's very well needed, Len. Our military needs to be the tip of the spear, as it always has been. It's exactly the reason why America was brought into 2 world wars and cleaned house in 2 world wars. There's a reason why, and if it happened again, granted, God forbid, there's a reason why, and even if it did happen, it wouldn't even be because of the United States. It would be because history has always shown, and I could put my foot in my mouth, but at any rate, I don't think the United States is going to go out there and cause a war. But if we had to go out there and clean up another war like we have, I guarantee you that we would clean house like we always have, just because of our budget and what we've done. And even though there's only been maybe about 5, maybe 10, I don't know the exact number, years of weirdness, and you know what I'm talking about, weirdness put into the military, it's not enough to unpen the 200-year culture of badassness that is the United States. because we are. That's what we are. We are. This was the frontier, baby. The United States military was built on the backs of the frontier, of people of the United States Army going across the frontier of America and going out there and doing what it did, and the grit and the grind of what America stood for and the culture of what America is, which is the cowboy. Don't mess with the cowboy. Don't mess. That's why Texas is so beautiful, Len. The most widely known state, like outside of the United States of America, the world knows Texas. Because that's the America is Texas. I hate to say it to everybody out there, but Texas is America, and everybody wants to deny it, but it is. Look, California used to be America, Len, but California is not America anymore.
Hey,
it's not. California is the
I'm not here to advocate for California, but Texas is not the spot, brother. Let me tell you, I like Texas.
Texas will be the most populated state. Within the next 10 years, it's going to be the most populated state.
Never. It won't. That won't.
Look at the math. Look at the data. What is it? I think 2030, 2035.
The trend.
Hold on. Let's ask chat. Let's ask chat.
The trend is moving back where people, because you're right. When COVID happened, for the first time in its history, more people moved out of California than moved in. But that trend reversed as of last year, if I'm not mistaken. But to go back to the conversation that happened, the military summit at Quantico, I think what the problem that I have is when we look at the media, depending upon what side of the aisle that media outlet is for, they only highlight one side of the issue. And one of the things that I hope that you and I bring to the table is that we highlight the good and the bad of every issue, because nothing is typically ever black and white, except for things like hurting children and death and killing people in cold blood and different things like that. But most of the issues we talk about, there's typically two sides. And so I think that it's important to look at that. And so when I listened to Hexa, because I didn't just listen to what other people said about what they said. I actually watched the whole thing between what Hegseth said and what Trump said. And I watched it from the beginning to the end. And when Hegseth came out, he's very good looking, well-spoken guy. And, he served in the military, and I respect that. And I like the fact that he talked about standards, and I like the fact that he talked about making sure.
Who's better looking, Hexa or Newsom?
Bro, I can't talk about that. I don't know. They're both good looking dudes. They're both good looking. So, Gavin is a little older and he's got that suave look. They're both good looking guys. So anyway, as we digress, I would say listening to Hegseth talk to the people, he talked about standards, and I think that's important. What I did not like, though, is there were veiled threats about if they didn't do what he said, that there could be consequences. And I don't like that tone, because you brought them there. They're many of them, lost limbs. They lost partners. Many of them were injured themselves, and they've seen horrific things that have happened. And to belittle their experiences, even in the smallest way, you're talking about decorated generals. That's not the right tone to have. I think you could say, hey, listen, we've got to improve the level of fitness that we have overall. We've got to make sure that we're the strongest, the leanest, and the meanest. You could say all of that, but the threats that he threw out, I didn't like that tone. But I didn't really have too much of an issue overall with what he said. I'm not thrilled about the whole idea of it becoming the Department of War and just, snapping your fingers and rebranding that. I think there should be more of a process to it than just, having a speech, because to me, when you look at the military might of the United States is the strongest that the world has ever seen. And I think there should just be, when you're talking about issues with the military, there should just be a higher degree of decorum and respect as it relates to making those types of changes. And so I was more disturbed about what Trump said. Now, I like how he came in and he was very, endearing to the generals and all of that in the beginning. But when he went off script, that's where things go wrong with him. And the biggest issue that I have with what he said that I didn't like was how this idea of using the military to police its own citizens. The United States military was never meant to do that. You have the police and you have detectives and you have the FBI who are supposed to do that. Now, if there's something where there's a national emergency where civil war breaks out and arms are turned on each other in an organized fashion to overturn the government. Yes. So when they talk about enemies, foreign and domestic, you're talking about domestic enemies that are seeking to destroy the republic. A protest in Portland is not that. Some issues going on in Chicago and Los Angeles over ICE raids is not that. People have the right to protest. You can agree with their reasoning and their rationale for protesting, but the right to protest is part of an essential fabric of who we are as Americans. So to talk about this idea and this notion of turning the military against its own citizens is repugnant to me. And the other aspect that I didn't like was the whole partisanship talk, because in that room, if statistically speaking, half of them are Democrats and half of them are Republicans. And so the military is not supposed to be a partisan conversation. You're not talking to generals like you're talking to the United States citizenship. That speech in a rally and, for the DNC, perfectly fine in terms of the tone and the tenor, not the military turning on its own. But if you talk about the radical left, go ahead and do that. Talk about how, the previous presidents didn't do what they were supposed to do. You can talk about that in that context, but in front of a group of generals, no, sir. Wrong place, wrong time. Read the room. And so I think that he missed an opportunity to really establish himself as the commander in chief, because here's the thing about military is that when they get an order, as long as it's in alignment with the Constitution and it's not in violation of any law, their job is to take the directive of the commander in chief. And so you can't abuse that power because you have a partisan agenda. That becomes very, very dangerous.
So I don't like the Department of War thing. I think that's kind of like, I am a intention kind of person. So when I see or hear that, it kind of to me like gives that intention. So I'm not down with that. But I understand it is what it is. Maybe it signals, maybe it's a virtue or some type of virtue signal that, hey, the U.S. is ready, right? We're primed. I don't know why that language has to change. I'm sure maybe they have a good reason for it, but whatever the reason for it is, it is much more proactive, right? It is much more provocative to use that kind of, I'm no longer Secretary of Defense, I'm Secretary of War, right? But was the language changed at one point from war to defense?
Yeah, I think it was 1946 or 1947. Prior to that,
it was Department of War
before, yes.
Yeah, it was Department of War. So they switched it back. So that kind of makes me like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? Department of War again, right? Either way, and you would know that too if you watch like, war movies, old war movies of World War I or World War II, they say Department of War, right? So I'm okay with that. I think too, though, is with the aspect of if the shoe fits, I think then wear it. I think that if I was in the room and like you're saying, like the way they were talking and the tone and all that stuff, and maybe it would came off disrespectful. I wouldn't have taken it that way. Like if, for example, if I was in that room and I was a 3-star general, 4-star general, and I'm bam, 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 and I'm tip top like I should be as a general, then and they were saying those things, I'd come out of the room going, damn straight, it's about freaking time to get some stuff around here.
You're talking about the standards, increasing standards. I'm
yes.
with you on that. I hear you on that part.
Yes,
for sure.
But even the language of hey guys, even that
I'm with that too.
I'd be okay with it.
I never had any issues with the talking about high standards, because as a person in the military, having high standards is of supreme importance. You're talking about life and death. I have no issue with that. My main issue was the partisanship issue. Like, even with upholding male standards and making sure that everybody passes that, I could understand from a female's point of view why there could be a reason for differentiated standards. Okay. That's not a battle in which I'm willing to, die on the sword for. I could see both sides of it. I don't have any strong opinions about differentiating standards towards for women that are, reasonable, as long as it doesn't hurt. Like, if you can pick up whatever machinery and you can shoot it and you can aim it and you can do what you do at a high level, I don't have any issue with there being differentiated standards within reason. If those standards get to a level where it drops beyond being effective in the field, because right now there are over 200,000 females in the armed forces. And on the one hand, they talked about the strength and the might of the American military. Well, it's still strong and it's still mighty and it's still the number one in the world right now, even though the standards do in many cases need to be raised. But at the same time, you can't say on the one hand, let's wipe out these differentiated standards for females and then tout how great the military is at the same time. That's to suggest that we fall into number two. I could see that speech if all of a sudden, because I do understand what Trump said, where he said, ever since World War II, we've lost different wars and stuff like that. I think wars are fought in a different way now. And so this idea to me, I don't think as many people are going to be sent to the field of battle. I think what Ukraine unleashed and unlocked was this whole idea of sending drones everywhere in droves, because they can inflict major damage on the opposition side without your side incurring many casualties. And so I think with AI technology, I think that's the direction. So if that's the case, I could be wrong, but if that's the case, then you've got to really reevaluate all of the rules and policies, because wars aren't fought physically anymore. If we were back in the days where you had a mace and a sword and you're fighting hand-to-hand combat, then yeah, of course. So it's important to understand, because all businesses iterate. So if businesses iterate, why are we talking about going back to standards from the 1940s and 50s and 60s? That's a problem. There's a disconnect.
I don't necessarily think it has to do with going back to standards from those years, but going back to the rigidity of standard. Because I don't think and standards should be standards. Standards should not change because the gender changes. It should be one standard, and this is it. Okay, so let me say criteria is probably a better word, because I think there needs to be different criteria, but with high standards. Of course.
That's what that's what I meant.
And then as far as and the rest of it is concerned. Military readiness needs to be at a high point. It needs to be at a high point. And I don't think that the tone, now if let me put it this way. If subsequent meetings are like that, And I don't think that's the tone of all meetings. I think that was the tone of that meeting, meaning the harshness, the crazy, like it was no holds barred, right? And a lot of people might have go, wow, that was crazy, right? Like you're saying, read the room. I think a meeting like that needed to be done because I don't think there's been a meeting like that in a long time.
No, that's unprecedented. It's never happened where they brought all the generals and all of the branches of the military together. It's never happened. One, it's a security risk, but and it was millions of dollars to do that. But I didn't. Right. I don't want to cut you off, but I just wanted to throw.
Funny you mentioned that though. That you said security risk. I'm wondering if it was almost an intelligence move to see who is compromised.
Interesting.
I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it from that perspective of going, and Trump being an a-hole at that meeting. Everyone's expecting that. So is that a move? Is that a play? I think him having to set that tone and know that tone, because everybody knows Trump's tone is going to be that already. So he's going to deliver that tone. I think that meeting hasn't been done in a very long time. And I think that there was a lot to that meeting just, hey, we're going to do it one more. We're going to do this to set the tone. I think it was a meeting to see who's in, who's out, who's tired, who's sharp, who's in our camp, who do we have to watch, who could potentially be, who is watching us, who's tracking these guys as they move around, because they're in all different countries, right? So I think there was a lot. I think that was a big operation that happened in that meeting. And I really think it was a meeting to see who's who in the zoo and who's in the camp and who's not. And now I think as a result, over the next couple of months, year, whatever, you're going to see a cleaning of house. And we won't ever know, by the way.
That's true.
That's
true. And some things we shouldn't know. You know what I mean? So we don't need to know.
No, we don't have to know everything. We don't have to know everything. Mm-hmm. We don't have to know everything. But at the same time, you want to go to bed at night and go, does the government have my best interest in mind? And it does.
Sometimes I wonder. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, that's where you go back to the Reagan days and go, damn, we need a hero. We need a hero, man. Like, we need a hero. And I can't wait for Trump's presidency to end in success and you to wear a Trump shirt that says,
I don't think that's going to happen, man.
That says Trump's presidency was a success.
All right. So, I'm processing the idea that, because a part of me is like, take that bet, because there's no chance.
I would say I'd wear your candidate.
I don't have one.
But you don't even have one.
You're right.
You can't even pick one. I can pick my number 2. I can pick JD Vance because I'll pick him as well.
Oh, no, bro. Oh, my gosh. I hope he doesn't turn out.
Hey, you know what?
I hope. Okay, let me say this. I hope he gets better in the next 3 years if he's going to be the presumptive nominee. Because right now,
he's
bro.
Ahead.
Yeah, he just
him and Newsom are ahead of Newsom are even ahead of in chances for 2020 are ahead of DeSantis.
Wow, that's going to be interesting to see how it all. Yeah, DeSantis has no shot. He messed up.
Why doesn't he have a shot? Because he's too libertarian?
No, he's not. Okay, so one thing that you can say, if you look at every president, whether you gotta like DeSantis, he's or cool, disagree with them,
calm and collected.
No, bro. This is the thing that's missing with him. He lacks the charisma. He, like the young folks say, he doesn't have that riz.
Yeah.
Like, he's super intelligent. He's principled in his stance. There's a lot of things that he says that I wholeheartedly, vehemently disagree with. I think he is a grounded, intelligent politician who he does right based on what he believes. Regardless if I agree with all of his beliefs, I think he's fundamentally a person who is looking to do right based on his beliefs. I believe that Vance, as of right now, and maybe it's because Trump is in office, I think he's at a place where he feels like he has to kiss the ring and take on that persona of Trump. And it just doesn't match him, bro. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so I just think that the next president that gets elected to office needs to be a person that's willing just to tone it down, man, and steam the division and just, temper the environment. But I know that the next person that gets in office, they're just going to be Trump 2.0 because they feel that's the formula to have to get in. And
I don't think so.
I really
I don't think so.
I hope
I don't think
wrong.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think his successor is going to do that. I think his successor is going to do the exact opposite. I think a successor of Trump is going to give you exactly what you're asking for, which is a toned down, good fiscal conservative policy, level headed, and put JD Vance's or Newsom's Riz or charisma into DeSantis, and you got a winning politician.
He would win if he had their charisma, for sure. I think he'd win
for sure, because that's the thing. Newsom has charisma, but he's a horrible legislator and a horrible manager. Horrible. Don't even dare even say he's good in any way.
You didn't hear me fight back. I think the Democratic Party is in a world of trouble because they don't have a clear nominee. They don't have anybody with a clear pathway towards that. And that's just bad strategy. That's just bad management. And so, yeah, they've got a real tough road to slay, man. So I want to switch gears a little bit, man, because I know we can get long-winded and then the time is beyond us. But right now is October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And you and I know we've been real, champions of breast cancer awareness. And we've done many things to contribute financially and with our time and our effort and things like that. And so, considering, here are a couple of key facts, and I'll turn it over to get your thoughts. In the United States, as of 2025, on average, there are 310,000 new cases of breast cancer, and worldwide, 2.3 million, and about 43,000 people die every year from breast cancer. And here's the crazy thing. If you catch it early, 99% of the people who catch it right in the beginning stages of stage 1, they survive. 99%. And so I wanted to just get your thoughts about this and from the health perspective, and I have some thoughts as well. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
You're absolutely right, Len. We've done a lot of events. Gosh, I haven't done one in a while, but I mean, we've done casino nights, we've done fashion shows. Did you go to the fashion show we did?
I did.
Did you see that?
It was really,
you remember
really
that?
well done.
It was a fashion show. I had 2 designers there from Nordstrom's. It was awesome. And we did did you do the art? Did you go to the one we did, the art gallery too?
I did not go to the art gallery. No, because we had one, I think it was like the same day.
Might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but
great events. Mm-hmm. Great events. And we used to do it a lot with Susan G. Komen. We used to do it with a lot of other private events and a lot of, I mean, the thing is especially today is just, look, the United States medical system is the best acute medical system in the world. Like, acute medicine is the thing, is America's thing.
Yes.
Preventative medicine, maintenance health.
Different story.
Not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much. So, look, I mean, I don't know what the screening is or what it is, but just go and do the recommended screenings. But above and beyond, like, recommended screenings, I think there's even science behind the fact that mammograms are bad for you or something to that effect. Go get the full body scans. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my advice, but this is just what I have seen and I've known in my circles. And I run in circles with family members that have had breast cancer, that are breast cancer survivors, friends, business partners. Get executive medical exams, full body scans, full body MRIs, brain scans, heart scans, blood work every 90 days, and eat a cancer preventative diet, which is generally low carb, low sugar, or keto, or Mediterranean. And that's really, look, it's not a guaranteed 100%, but it is a very good multiplier in favor of not. And there's just a lot that goes into, and I can't help but wonder, drink and eat organic and non-GMO, because I can't help but wonder all the growth hormones and all the stuff that they put in RBST and all the stuff they put in cows and all the stuff they put in. It's so important to eat the organic and non-GMO, because those hormones and those growth additives and all those things they put in the food supply, that ends up, creating those problems in young people. That's why you see these colorectal cancer cases, breast cancer cases up, cervical cancer cases, testicular cancer. You see all these, and it's all within these generations that are growing up and are consuming a more GMO and a more non-organic in hormone-induced environment and hormone-pumped environment, rather than an environment that you and I were in where it wasn't that. It's interesting to me, and I know this might be a little off topic from breast cancer awareness, but it ties into the food, is that when you go and you find, like, for example, I found a string cheese because my kids like string cheese, and I finally found a string cheese that was 100% grass-fed, organic, whole dairy. And when I tasted it, I went, "Man, this takes me back to the way string cheese tasted when I was like 6, 7 years old." And I often goes back that I notice that when I buy eggs, or when I get eggs that are from the ranch or from the farm, right? I know that I'm eating, like, for example, eggs I eat this morning. I know those popped out of the chickens, like 4 days ago, right? So it's like, when you eat it, it's a different type of taste. And some foods, you remember it. You go, "Whoa, I remember that." It doesn't, what? And it's like, you can kind of see that transition. So yeah, I mean, it's a very big thing for me to do for preventive screenings and to get around causes like that. And here's the thing: if you're a local entrepreneur or business owner, and this is just a tip that I would say, and is something that I would do if if you're in a local marketplace, be a leader and hold those types of events. Hold a breast cancer awareness pageant or fundraiser, or find a local charity in your community. If you're a business leader, or you want to be a business leader, or you want to get your name out there, and you want to market, this is the right way to build centers of influence when you're becoming an entrepreneur. You're coming up an entrepreneur in a marketplace, rather than just going to mindless meet and greets and networking events and going, "Here's my card, buy something. Here's my card," because that's what everyone's doing. Go find an organization this month, or any month that has it could be anything. It doesn't have to be breast cancer awareness, but just because it is in October and it is breast cancer awareness, find a local charity that focuses on breast cancer awareness. Go to them and do a fundraising event in your community, and be the host of that, and bring together community leaders to do that event, and put that type of event on consistently in that marketplace, and watch how you build market value in your local marketplace, and how you build market value for yourself as a leader in a non-pushy, salesy way. You'll build so many centers of influence, and it is a good cause. And I understand some people might look at it and go, "Oh my God, you're doing it just because..." No, it's not the idea here. Okay? Yes, there's money to be made. Yes, we're making money. Yes, we're attracting clients. But in our hearts of hearts, we're doing this event at the foundational core to bring awareness to it, because everyone needs to do it. I have family members, very close, immediate family members that are breast cancer survivors. So
yep.
It's a very good event. It's a very good month, and it's a very good. Just like last month was Life Insurance Awareness Month, and then next month will be, Heart Disease Month, or whatever. Those get around those events. But Breast Cancer Awareness Month just happens to be a really big one.
Yeah,
big one.
It hits home for me because I had a client that was also a friend, and I remember her getting sick from time to time, and I always wondered why she got sick. And so she'd go to the doctor, and then she's well, and then she'd go back to the doctor. Well, one day I get a phone call, and she told me, "Hey, I just found out that I have breast cancer, and you're the second person that I told." And, so we prayed, and I started to just, check in with her about once every 3 weeks when I found out. And what happened is that over time, she just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And so one of my conversations that I had with her, I said, hey, if you don't mind me asking, how bad is it? She says, well, actually it's stage 4. I said, but you just found out that you were diagnosed. And she says, yeah, to be honest with you, I've been feeling different things in my body, but I just didn't really want to face the reality of it. So I just kept working and I just kept living my life, and it was better for me not to know. And one thing that I say, I share that story because, ladies, if you are feeling any weirdness in your body, like Chris talked about, go get an entire body scan, but definitely at the bare minimum, go get a mammogram, and definitely do your research as it relates to the efficacy and the effectiveness of mammograms and all of those. Cause I don't want to say if it, does more harm than good, but knowing is better than not knowing. And my wife and I have another friend who was a very big advocate of awareness, and she found out at stage 2, and she got the double mastectomy, and she went through a lot of challenges and ended up passing away as well. And so it's one of those things where when you hear about somebody out there in the ether, it's just a theoretical idea. But when there are people that and you care about, it takes on a different meaning. And so I really want to appeal to you the importance of, one, like Chris said, to echo what he said, eating a proper diet. Don't put lots of foods in your body that cancers like. Cancers like yeast. Cancers like sugar. They like glucose. It allows them to replicate and multiply. You've got to put a lot of antioxidants in your body. When you eat oxidative foods like processed foods, what ends up happening is it causes inflammation in your body. And when you have inflammation in your body has a tendency to break down. And that's where infections increase, sicknesses increase, and your body's immune system doesn't work as effectively. And so that's when cancer is becoming something that's a lot more prevalent with people who have bad immune systems. So do things to your body to help it fight itself. Like, don't drink excess alcohol. The body, how it metabolizes alcohol is a very good breeding ground for cancer. It's so important also to make sure that you exercise, because a body that has excess fat creates these other problems. That's a nice breeding ground for cancer. And so also, if you're an expecting mother, it's a very, very good idea to breastfeed. That has been clinically proven, especially over multiple pregnancies, to reduce cancer between 5 and 10%, which is not insignificant. And plus, it's better for your child. So if you just put yourself in a position to do the types of things that allow your body to fight itself, because I believe, this is just my theory, I believe that we all are predisposed to some type of cancer, but then there's certain environments that happens within the body, whether it's excess stress combined with poor eating, combined with poor choices, that allow these different variables to converge and increase one's likelihood of getting cancer. I don't think it's all genetics and it's random. I believe that it's all of those factors together, just my belief. And so if we can eliminate as many of the variables as possible to reduce the likelihood that our body becomes a firm, nice breeding ground, fertile breeding ground, then we lower the likelihood that we catch cancer. And that's really my thoughts on it. So I hope that more people become aware of breast cancer in general. I mean, in particular, and cancer in general, and really take care of yourself, because once you get cancer and it starts to spread to the body and it metastasizes, that's where things get really bad. So I'm glad that you took some time, Chris, to really help and explain the importance of breast cancer awareness, both from a physical side and also a business side, because, tying awareness to foundations and causes for business is also a very, very good idea.
And that's also a good point to say that, you should have proper financial planning in place. And what I mean by that is not just, I have my 401k and I have some savings, but you should have a nice sized life insurance policy that has some types of living benefits that kicks in. Should you have something like that? Should you have, on God forbid, a cancer diagnosis and you beat it and you end up having excess medical bills to the tune of $300,000 or $400,000, proper financial planning tools take care of that problem, and so not just that side of it, but also, have preparation done. Proper preparation, prevents failure.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, we've talked about a lot today. We've talked about the government shutdown to breast cancer awareness. So we covered a full gamut of topics, man. And so as always, it's always good to have a conversation with you. And I hope those of you out there got some value from our conversation. And as I always say, each week we're going to get better and better. And please send in your comments. And then also make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so we can get out the word to more people who are evenly minded, who's not polarized on one side or the other, because we believe that our conversation is a reflection of what America really represents. We can disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, we still respect each other and we move forward and do business with each other and also share many of the same values. So regardless if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or nonpartisan, however you classify yourself, we have a place for you to listen to the topics we talk about. So with that being said, we appreciate you. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.